The IRS can look back. They can look back 3 years. They can look back 6 years. So let's say down the road, you get away with it this year. Ha, 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 you're a scofflaw. Next year, you might not. They might come for you. They can do that.
It may have been the single greatest headline in the history of the New York Post, and that's saying something when you consider the all-time greatest headless body and topless bar banner from 1983. But the one from January of this year that screamed 2015 could be the easiest year to cheat IRS may have caused spontaneous dancing from coast to coast. Here's someone who's been fighting and exposing the Infernal Revenue Service for years as a criminal tax attorney and can shed some more light on potential dancing. Michael Minns is on MidPoint. Michael, we thank you so much for joining us, and I guess the best point to start at right here is, look, the IRS, political dirty tricks, come on, they've been doing this back to the 50s and the 60s, haven't they?
Yes, sir, they have, and that's no secret, I guess, but they're still doing it, and if you happen to be one of the 3,500 people that gets hit or gets put on the IRS hit list this year, you're not going to be happy. If you happen to be somebody like Herb Frisky, who was a witness in our last case, and they break down your door at 3 o'clock in the morning, handcuff your wife, handcuff your son, put M16s to his head, hold you in 3 separate rooms, you're not going to be happy, and you might even break down and do what they want, which Herb did. He broke down and did what they wanted. He was a witness. He pled guilty in his own case. He was a witness against us in the Madison case. Yeah, the statistics that they drop a few agents 1 year really doesn't make much difference if you're one of the people that gets scheduled for torture.
But let's look at this torture here. This is an agency that is charged by the government to collect money. That's all it is. Collect money, you pay taxes. We're talking about them walking in with guns, with bulletproof vests here, coming in almost like they are a SWAT team on steroids. How did it get to this point where they are so militaristic?
There's not enough oversight. You've got a bunch of people that a lot of them used to get picked on in high school. They probably had some psychological problems. They couldn't get to be real FBI agents or real police officers, so they probably couldn't even get their CPA license. But they became even more powerful when they got a gun and worked for the special agency, the IRS. And there's not enough oversight. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to have an armed invasion of someone's home with a SWAT team to obtain papers that they can get anyway through the bank and usually voluntarily.
So let's not call them the nerds who didn't succeed, because that might be an insult to nerds everywhere, right?
It is. I take that personally.
Got to be careful then. That's it. These guys aren't nerds. Come on. Let's treat the nerds well here. Let's not look at them like this. But when we look at what's going on here, and I want to get back to that headline, 2015 could be the easiest year to cheat the IRS. They're not getting as much money as they used to have. They're crying that they can't do as much. So if you're going to cheat the IRS, it looks like we finally hit nirvana.
I'm sorry, Ed. You hear these things, and I heard this 15 years ago too, and 10 years ago. They're always crying, and they've got their PR out there talking about how they need more and more and more money. It's almost laughable, an agency that has a license to grab money, and they're complaining that they don't have enough money.
So is it the IRS or the lawyers themselves there, Mike? I mean, IRS or lawyers, which one is really responsible for all the dirty tricks here?
There's a lot of, I mean, I have to tell you this from the bottom of my heart, and I sue a lot of lawyers too, and CPAs. There's a lot of lawyers that are they're partners with the Internal Revenue Service in doing harm to their clients. So I face people's ex-CPAs, people's ex-enrolled agents, people's ex-lawyers in court all the time, where they're testifying against their own clients, and they're getting immunity for doing so and money for doing so, and all sorts of rewards. It's wrong. The last trial we were in, they got a daughter to testify against her father. She broke down and cried on the stand, and it was a horrible thing, but they still did it, and it's wrong.
So you have really good success when you have clients that go up against the IRS. Why are you so good? Why do you win so often?
I think one reason is we go to court. So many of the people, like the guy I just mentioned, Herb Frisky, I'm not at all convinced he was guilty. But after they held his sick wife at gunpoint, he was a Vietnam veteran, and he had more PTSD from his one night dealing with his own country in America in his own home than he did in Vietnam. So he confessed. During the Madison trial, the prosecutor came over and told us, if you put Mrs. Madison on the stand, and we had intended to do so, she'll be indicted. So there's a lot of this dirty tricks, a lot of dirty stuff going on, and I guess we're the home of the land of the free and the brave, but there's a lot of people that aren't brave anymore, and they've been broken, and they're not willing to take the risk of trial.
So, Michael, I got about 45 seconds left here. Your advice, then, best advice to people right now to make sure that they don't get caught in the dirty tricks, at least try and cut the IRS off at the pass.
You ought to have a CPA and enrolled agent sign your returns. You ought to get them filed on time. You don't want your only name on it. And you need to check out your lawyer. You need to check out your CPA. If his name's David Simmons, who was just testified 3 times against his own clients, you need to get a new one.
Now, there's legal advice. I mean, you can take that one for free right there. Aren't we basically saying here, when you say get a CPA, get a good lawyer, we're talking common sense here, aren't we?
Yes, but I will tell you this. A lot of people with great-looking websites and other things that tell you how great they are. The case we just won out of Phoenix, the lawyer who was Chris Reeves changed his name to Christian Reeves. Chris Rush changed his name to Christian Reeves, and this guy was testifying against his own clients, making secret deals with the IRS.
Look for the good lawyers. Look for the good people. Use some common sense. Michael Minns, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for being here. I have a feeling we may be back to redress this all over again sometime as the IRS moves on. Stay with us, everybody, because speaking of money, the Money Master's next.